Hello and welcome to this, the third of our little mini-series of podcasts in discussion with Ted Everett about his book, My Life as a Photographer with Massey Ferguson. My name's Campbell Scott, formerly of Massey Ferguson myself, and since we recorded these in October 2020, just before the latest lockdown because of COVID, we're going to cover an incredible amount of ground in this session, so we're going to talk about the Massey Ferguson years. And I was particularly interested to hear Ted's first-hand account about some of the aerial photography that he did, and also about some of the famous and important people that he met in his career. Yeah, Ted, well, we're back again in the Massey Ferguson Club, and just for the record, this is late October 2020, and we're probably having to condense these sessions a bit because I don't think we're going to be able to meet up if we go into another sort of lockdown. But let's see what happens. So we're going to try and cover the Banner Lane years in this session. Because at the last time we left it, you'd moved from the Flex down to Banner Lane. So we're back in, I think, 1959, the 35 and the 65.
That's it, correct. Yes, that was in full flow at that time then. I was more or less covering the service instruction books and things like service manuals and any modifications pictures, whereas a lot of the photography was done out at Stoneleigh at the time, but I wasn't too involved in the action part of it. I did do a few at Park Farm and the Deer Park at Stoneleigh, but mainly I was doing instruction book work for my service department and service manuals, plus I was doing a lot of pictures then for engineering.
Right.
And because engineering, from Fletch, they moved up to Banner Lane. They moved into number 3 shop. Yeah, what kind of photographs did they? They like modifications and and things like that. And if like the demo, especially if most people would have probably heard of him or knew of him, was Dickie Dowdeswell. If he'd been out in the fields and sort of cracked an axle or something doing testing, I used to be called upon to do the photographs for their reports. Right. So I was involved with that, as I say, with field tests, engineering, service department, and doing. At that time, then we had the triple triangle, or the MF News. It started off with, and eventually came to triple. So most of the time I was covering all those areas. The triple triangle was usually delegated at perhaps a Friday afternoon to do a few pictures of, say, somebody getting married or somebody's achievement of doing something, stories for the triple triangle. So I was still quite busy. Mainly
tractor work, because I know the combine engineering at one point moved down to Banner Lane.
Yeah, well, I'd already been up to Kilmarnock when I was at Fletch, you see, and then after a while, a few of those guys in service department up there who I used to go and do the work with got transferred down to Coventry. Right. You see, there was the guys like Paul Trotter, who was the main service manager. It was what they call the technical publications people, right? For instruction books and artwork and stuff like that. Arthur Purden,
I remember him.
He was the Scottish guy, he was the artist and whatever.
He was an illustrator. He
that's
used to sit behind him watching him draw.
That is correct.
Filters and
And then there was another guy. 2 or 3 came down from Kilmarnock to Coventry, and they ended up in A block. And after 2 or 3 years, or it might not have been that long, engineering, which was in number 3 shop, moved down to Morty Road. Okay. So therefore, I used to go to Maudsley Road several times.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't cover it.
And Maudsley Road, for anybody listening that isn't from Coventry, it's what, about a couple of miles from Bannerley?
It was it's about 2 to 3 mile, at the most.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just sort of, as you say, it was just down the road. And because the test rigs and they used to do all the testing of. Several parts of those moved down there, but another lot of the section stayed at Banner Lane, in the old big buildings at the back where they used to test the aircraft engines during the war,
the big, thick
and
walls.
they got transferred over to testing axles or all sorts of things in those buildings at the back, because that's where our department was, at the back there.
Did you go much into the production line?
The thing was then, I could not sort of just wander into those areas. Requests had to be made. It was purely probably union side of it, because some people had the idea that if I went in to photograph something on the line, a picture of the tractors coming up, they thought that you were photographing some of the workers and showing them photographs to management, what they were doing. They had that sort of idea. And if something, over the months, I had to get round. But something cropped up which opened the door really for me. Was they had a sort of, the company started an engineering sort of courses for several of the workers, from where they work. How could they improve the conditions and the facilities and that where they worked? And if they did this test and did well, they would sort of get a sort of, I don't know, some award.
They got an award.
Okay, but how it came about was when they had written all this up, but how do you show them? That's where I came in. And luckily I was talking to one guy, and this is what he was after. I said, I will do the pictures for you. And so I did that, and it snowballed from there, because he told everybody else, and that they kept coming, so I had to book them in. A couple one day, a couple another day, and I got round it that way, and then it was a doddle. All I had to just then was tell the foreman, and he would say, that's fine, go down and see the charge hand down that line and tell them, and I said I would tell them, and you go down, and that's how I got. And what I did was, to make it better, was if a guy working on a particular project or putting a wheel on, say for instance, I would take a picture and I would let him have a print. So I will give in the workers a print of them driving the tractor or doing a particular job, and after that, well, forevermore then, that's how I cracked it, to get in.
I mean,
and
the factory, of course, in full production in those days.
Oh yes, in them days, full production.
35s.
You had to be careful, because there were tractors everywhere.
Really?
Oh, they were everywhere. And the thing is, it was difficult at first. And I got round the unions, and I got to know the conveners and what well, 2 or 3 of them. I used to go and have a drink with them at odd times at weekend. So that's how I kept in.
And then moving on to when the 100 series, or the famous, what they call the Red Giants.
Well, we're talking now. In 1964. When we went out to Stoneleigh at Park Farm, and the only place that they offered us was the old cow shed. And it's still there today, that building. And but it was sufficient enough to get 2, 3, 4 tractors in to strip down and do service work, and then built up, and then it came on to instruction book purposes. And when that was done, there was a deadline but at that time there was a deadline of August, so particular models could be then taken out into the field for photography, so brochures could be produced and ready for the launch at the end of the year at the Smithfield.
And I guess the team involved...
And the team was it's one of the best. It was a super project. We had a super team.
Yeah.
We had such fun with it, and we all worked together.
Yeah.
And it just seemed to go like clockwork.
Really? Yeah.
I mean, we had Sam Floyd, who did a lot of fitting. He was assisted by Bob Gilchrist, who was a training guy at Bob's still around at Stoneleigh, so he could look after the Stoneleigh material and whatever. But he also helped Sam. And then we had John Kirkham, the technical writer.
Still around.
You know, and I'm still in touch with him today.
Yeah.
And then occasionally Keith Thomason came in as well. He did the writing. We had Cyril Adam, who was a time repair specialist.
RTS, yes.
He used to have to set the clock and set it to see how long it took you to do the job. But we and as I say, it was such a good team. And obviously, and after a while, towards the end, we got CKD that came in.
Really?
As well, because don't we get the packing cases? They've got to be packed and whatever. Measurements. Johnny Goff came out there with a couple of his fitters, and Stan Annie was one, and the other guy was Len Wood. He lived down in Earlston. It was such a good. It was such a good project.
I know they were shown at Smithfield, but did they ever like a launch at Stoneleigh or anything?
I cannot really remember a launch.
No, I never saw anything.
People have asked me this, and I was never involved in a launch.
Yeah.
I could just remember, in the Stairton there, where we did the tractors and that outside in the courtyard when they were complete, doing the instruction book pictures. It was just sort of.
Did you have a favourite one of those tractors?
135.
135. Yeah.
I could hop on that and drive it around and put it in the position I wanted it. Yes.
Well, not a bad choice, because it went on to become a huge seller, didn't it? The 135.
Great little tractor. I love that tractor.
Well, as I said, Ted, we're having to cover a lot of ground in this session because of the COVID situation. We can't. We might not have too many opportunities. But one thing I wanted to move on to that intrigued me from the book was the aerial photography you did. I mean, nowadays, just to explain, you get a drone, and the drone goes up, somebody stands on the ground, but you actually had to go up in a helicopter.
Oh, crikey, I can.
So tell us about some of the jobs you did when you had to go up in a helicopter.
Well, the first time I had to go up in a helicopter, or went up in a helicopter, was to try and do a photograph of Park Farm area. Now that area was about 550 acres in size. I was given a map, and they said they would like a picture. I'm not quite sure who requested it, but that was one of the first. I think it was about the first time that I had to go up in the helicopter. And so we nip along to Baggington, and there's the helicopter. They come up from Oxford, by the way, that company. And off I went in the helicopter, loaded with at least 2 cameras, or one with the magazines of one with colour, one with black and white, and then a 35mm. But so I'd got it covered in all ways, transparency, slides, whatever. So up we went, and looking at the map, and I showed the pilot this obviously before we took off, because I was in contact because you've got the
headphones.
The headphones. And up we went. It took us probably 10 minutes in
really?
Yeah, to get. We just don't know what happened. We just could not gauge it. And then all of a sudden, it all clicked in with the map.
Wow.
And that's what it did. But it did take us about 10 minutes to
you
sort it out.
You must have been pretty high off the ground as well.
It was
to
fairly
get
high. It was fairly high.
Yeah.
And then we got higher, and we did it. And that was the first time. Anyway, we came down, we did that. And then, within a short space of time, I had a request then to photograph all the factories.
Yes.
And at that time, we'd got Baggington as well.
Oh yeah,
see?
Baggington, yeah.
So I took off from Baggington Airport there, and obviously my first job was I'll do Baggington, aerial pictures of Baggington. And at the time, it was the Royal Show that was on. From Baggington then, I did Stoneleigh, the training centre, then the Royal Showground, right?
Yes.
Then after that, I came down the highway down to Maudsley Road.
Oh yeah.
Right, came down the highway to Maudsley Road, and this is something I learned at the time. we were hovering over the sort of common, looking down at Maudsley Road, and I said to Polly, "Look, can we go in closer?
Yeah.
I'd like to go a lot closer." He said, "Well, Dad," he said, "I can't. I can't go any closer because if anything happens to the engine, I've got to have somewhere to land."
Right.
We only have one engine.
Yeah,
I said, "Enough said." Enough
right.
said.
Yes,
I've got my shots. I've got my shots. What I'll do, I'll enlarge everything. And off we went to Banner Lane.
Ah, yeah.
Well, during that shoot, it was. I think it was. I think the kids were off school or something. But I said to the wife, the kids at home, about such and such. You see a helicopter coming across. I'm in it. I'm doing a job. I shall come and wave to you from the helicopter on the way to Banner Lane.
Yeah.
And I said to the wife, "But I don't think I'll have a box of Black Magic."
No.
So, do you remember the advert?
I remember it well, yes.
And we went to Banner Lane. But that's something I learnt when I was photographing when you see the aerial shots of Banner Lane. That was a remark. I cannot get any.
Well-known shot, yeah.
I cannot go any closer, Ted, because we only have one engine, and if anything, I've got to have somewhere to land.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they saw this. Of course, well, what about Knowsley? What about Manchester?
Yeah.
You see, Barton Dot Road and parts.
Urmston, yeah.
So I said, well, all right, yeah. So what I did, we went up, and this time I took Ivor Clark with me. This time.
Oh, Ivor,
right.
Yes, yeah.
So what we heard was the weather wasn't going to be too clever in the afternoon up that area. So we get up there, and we got to Manchester, an airfield in Manchester. And we were met, and we went. So it was a brilliant sunny morning. So we did Knowsley first. We went and done Knowsley, and then as we come up, you could see the black clouds coming in the distance.
Really?
So, right, well, we'll do Barton Dock Road first. We did that. What I did was either do some slides on one camera, and then I could do the pictures on the bigger camera, so it would save time.
Yeah, you were working together, yeah.
And of course the black cloud was moving in as we did Barton Dock Road, but we just got to flick down the road a little bit to do CPO. And the angle we got the black clouds in the back, and we got all the sun, the last of the sun, on parts there, and we did that and moved around a little bit, and we had about less than 5 minutes to do that, and within that it just went as black as night. And then we just went back to the airport, the airfield, got in the car, thanked the pilot very much. It took us about an hour.
Manchester Airport? Or?
No, it wasn't Manchester Airport.
No.
It was a airport that they used at that time, a small airport.
Small airport, yeah.
Yeah. And then we got our shots. So that was another time. And I did one of a helicopter shot with, they had a launch, and I think it was a 500 launch at Stoneleigh. and they wanted an aerial because of the layout and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So how that happened, I'd got about 20 minutes, 25 minutes time left on what we'd paid, because you had to pay by the hour.
Oh, yes.
And with the trips I'd done them quicker than I should have done, so they owed us that time.
Right.
So we made use of it.
Ah.
So I got up in that helicopter and did them shots, the aerial shot, and I'm
series.
sure it was a 500 series.
Yeah.
And that's where them shots come from.
Yeah.
And I used them minutes up, 20-25 minutes up, because Baggington Airport was only down the road.
Now, when I first knew you, of course, you were 1986. I started. You were already a very well established professional. Now, I remember sometimes somebody come and help you push 3000 series in and out of a studio that you'd set up at Stoneleigh. Do you remember that?
Oh God, yeah. The studio.
Yeah.
Of course I did. Yes.
What was that about, Ted? With the
Well, when it was a 300 series mainly, but we had to do the 3000 as well. Yes, well, we'd got the studio, right? But we wanted really it improving with lights, tungsten lights we used, and also new coving in the building. It was already an existing panel frame building. Yeah. Which I think industrial were using, but we took that off them. But it was a big programme, that 300 series and the 3000 series. It was a big programme.
You were weeks in there taking photographs,
and the thing was, I was even after all that, I was weeks in there after that, with implements, combine, balers, you name it, everything. But for this particular launch, 86, we got the first tractor, the 300 series, down field test. Well, I said that we need another little studio. Like, I wanted to do the technical stuff of the details for service and Stoneleigh training for slide presentations and training for students and whatever. Yeah. So I got the local builders, Brandon and Sheedy, in here one Saturday morning and knocked up a background in field test, one of the panel frame buildings, and put all shale down, because in a studio, when you've done when you drive a tractor on the studio, you've got tyre tracks. You've got to keep emotion in them out.
That's right, yeah.
I said, if we have a pedal one, I ain't got that problem. I can go round it, do a picture of the alternator, do a picture of the engine, and do a picture of a radiator without keep wiping the floor. So we had two, you see. Yes. And I said, I'll concentrate. I had the first tractor, and I had Dave Stevens and Peter Bott as fitters to do all the work and alterations and modifications, whatever. I would do all that, which mounted probably 60 or 70 pictures on each tractor, modifications. Don't forget, the 2-post ROPS, 4-post ROPS, sunroof, footstep. Yeah. Different
so many different specifications.
I had to do
2
pictures,
spool valves, 3 spool valves.
Not one picture will do for the rest. No, one picture went with that. When I marked the films up, so I knew exactly which tractor was what. And then I left the big feature ones to go up to the big studio, which we were talking about earlier, the main studio, so they could use a bigger format camera. Say like the general views of the tractor. Maybe the entrance into the tractor, the cab entrance and that sort of thing. Use it for there, and then we used to swap over, and I said, right, I'll come up and do something up there.
Yeah, Ted, so very quickly, just to end off this session, just tell us, because we're running out of time, tell us about when Mrs. Thatcher put you in charge of the
1989, yeah, well, that was, I just had a hectic weekend, because the daughter had got married, on a Saturday, and because the show was open on Monday. Well, sure enough, about 7:30 that morning, down to the press office at the showground, just to get any important visitors that may visit Massey stand and whatever, just keep me updated with any special events.
Mm-hmm.
And I was told, yes, there's a special guest
Yeah.
at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
But we can't tell you who it is.
Right.
Oh, okay. So off I went up to our stand, and Mike Moles was there. He was a manager. He was stand manager. I said, "Who's this special guest?" He said, "I don't know. I should know any second." And at that time, a couple of guys came up. There was about 3 of them, and 2 of them I knew. They were sort of like special detective guys, that looked after royalty and that sort of thing. And of course I knew them, and they came and told her, "Who's the manager?" And I said, "I'm talking to him here, you see." They said, "Well, the person that's coming to see..." Oh, at that time there were sniffer dogs, all round, right? And they told her that Mrs. Thatcher would be arriving, and the 2 guys, these 2 other guys said, we know the photographer, we know Ted, we've dealt with him before, so I was cleared of any...
security.
Yeah. Anyway, when she came, I was introduced to her, and then he said, because he would like a couple of special photographs that he would like, because I told him what I wanted for something for the Triple Triangle, for our local paper. And anyway, when she'd finished talking to Mike Molesworth, and John Sword, who was the boss man at that time, said, "Right, Ted, what would you want me to do? Just tell me what you're in charge. Whatever I do, you tell me what I've got to do." So I said, "Right, this way. That's what I want." And I got children laid on waiting at the side, and I wanted pictures with her, with the children. And she did exactly what I said. And after we'd finished, she came up, she said, "Thank you very much. I like the way, your professional way that you handled the children and myself. Thank you very much." And that was it. And after she'd gone, all the local sales lads, they were there, and they said, "Well, Ted, you were in charge of the country for 2 minutes." And I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "Well, she said, you're in charge, Ted. Tell me what I've got to do."
Yeah, that's right.
I said, "I see what you mean now."
Yeah.
And that stuck for 2 or 3 days, the rest of the show. And I'll never forget that.
Brilliant story.
Never forget that.
Well, Ted, unfortunately we come to the end of this session. We just wanted to, as you know, record a few of your memories to complement what's in the book. There is a link below for anybody listening for the book that's available on Amazon. We're just getting down, to selling off the last few. So if you do, depending on when you listen to this, if you click on and it's not available, I do apologise. But so from Ted, a closing word about your career in Massey Ferguson and his
what more can I say? Wonderful life. I was just so lucky. I can say really, I never did look for a job. It was a hobby.
Yeah.
And I got paid for it.
Yeah.
And I was able to do more or less what I wanted to do for the company. I knew what the priorities were, and I know a lot of it was unsociable hours, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
So thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for everything. That's from Ted Everett and Campbell Scott. Goodbye for now. Thank you.